Good morning. Dawn Blunt here with Brighton Fire Rescue. We are really sad that we can't bring story time to everyone at the fire station like we usually do, but we also know it's the right thing to do. So since we can't have everyone to our fire stations to have a story time and a tour, we thought we'd at least bring story time to everyone so that we can enjoy that together. This book here is actually one that is one of my kids' favorite books from when they were little, and they let me borrow it so I can read it to everyone. Let's see what happens. Curious George and the Firefighters. It's kind of hard to see, I think. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, joined Mrs. Gray and her class on their field trip to the fire station. The fire chief was waiting for them right next to a big fire truck. "Welcome," he said, and he led everyone upstairs to begin their tour. There was a kitchen with a big table, and there were snacks for everyone. The fire chief told them all about being a firefighter. George tried hard to pay attention, but there were so many things for a little monkey to explore, like that shiny silver pole over in the corner. Where did the pole go? George was curious. Why, it went back downstairs. There was the great big fire truck. There was a map of the city. And there was a whole wall full of coats and hats and big black boots. George had an idea. First, he stepped into a pair of boots. Next, he picked up a helmet. And finally, George put on a jacket. He was a firefighter. Suddenly, bring! The firefighters all rushed in. "This is not my helmet," said one. "My boots are too big," said another. "Hurry, hurry," called fire chief. A bright red light on the map of the city told him just where the fire was. There was no time to waste. One by one, the firefighters jumped into the fire truck, and so did George. The fire truck with all the firefighters sped out of the firehouse, and so did George. The siren screamed and the lights flashed. There they go. The truck turned right, and then it turned left. Woo, 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 went the whistle, and George held on tight. And just like that, the fire truck and all the firefighters pulled up to a pizza parlor on Main Street. Smoke was coming out of a window in the back, and a crowd was gathering in the street. "Thank goodness you're here," cried the cook. The firefighters rushed off the truck and started unwinding their hoses. They knew just what to do, and George was ready to help. He climbed up the hose reel. One of the firefighters saw George trying to help, and he took George by the arm and led him out of the way. "A fire's no place for a monkey," he said to George. "You stay here, where it's safe." George felt terrible. George sat on the bench and looked around. Next to him on the ground was a bucket full of balls. George reached in and took one out. It fit in his hand, just right, like an apple he'd had for a snack. A little girl was watching George. He tried to give her the ball, but she was too frightened. George took another ball and another. "Look," a boy said, "that monkey is juggling." The boy took a ball from the cage, tossed it to George, but it went too high. George climbed up onto the fire truck to get it. Now George had 4 balls to juggle. He threw the balls higher and higher. He juggled with his hands, he juggled with his feet. He could do all kinds of tricks. The boy threw another ball to George. George threw a ball back to the boy. The little girl reached down and picked up a ball too. Soon the children were throwing and catching back and forth. The fire chief came to tell everyone the fire was out. Just then, the little girl laughed and said, "Look, Mommy, a fire monkey." "Hey," called the fire chief, "what are you doing up there?" "What a wonderful idea," the little girl's mother told the fire chief. "Bringing this brave little monkey to help children when they're frightened." "Oh," the fire chief said. "Oh, well, thank you." Before long, the fire truck was back at the firehouse, where a familiar voice called, "George!" It was the man with the yellow hat. "This little monkey had quite an adventure," said one of the firefighters. "Is everyone all right?" asked Mrs. Gray. "Yes, it was just a small fire," said the fire chief, "and George was a big help." Now the field trip was coming to an end, but there was one more treat in store. All the children got to take a ride around the neighborhood on the shiny red fire truck, and they each got their very own fire helmet. Even George, and it was just the right size for a brave little monkey. So I think that that was a really great story. And what I want everyone to remember is that something like a fire could be pretty scary, but we can find ways to entertain ourselves, kind of like we're doing now. So we're all at home, but we can read stories and we can learn new things, right? And I want you to remember that if you ever go to the fire station and you see the firefighters in all of their gear, they cover themselves up from head to toe. And hopefully, when we're back at our fire stations, we'll get to show everybody what that looks like. But for now, we're going to start doing these once a week, and we're going to read stories to everyone. And I hope everyone is doing well and everyone's healthy and happy. And I look forward to reading you a story next week. Have a wonderful day.